What genuinely scares you to the core? Story 1. A swarm of flying cockroaches. When I first bought my house in the US South, it had been abandoned for a few years. I didn't move my belongings in right away because I knew it needed deep cleaning and infestation control of all kinds. First day, I cut open the wall-to-wall carpet to remove it. An entire mess of palmetto roaches, the huge flying American cockroaches, came flying and crawling and swarming out of the gap. I screamed and flailed so loudly that my neighbor came over to see if I was being murdered. She was greeted by me bursting out of the door, still screaming, running blindly past her, followed by a ton of roaches. That's how we met. I had another screaming and flailing fit when I realized the previous folks had left the garbage bin full for years. So I pulled it away from my house knowing it'd be full of bugs, then just dumped it on the lawn and ran away, preemptively screaming. It was an interesting first week of home ownership. And how did I get the nerve to actually live there after that? Well, the big mortgage was a factor. But jokes aside, I ripped out all that carpet. I lived on just the concrete slab for a few years until I could afford bamboo flooring. Finished just in time for COVID. I sprayed inside and out religiously as often as the label said I could. I was sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor for about a month while I did the initial renovations to get it livable. One night I was sleeping and one of those demon pets dropped from the ceiling and onto my face. Being trapped in my sleeping bag, not wanting to scream because, on my face, trying to wiggle my way out was horrible. When I got free and it flopped onto the floor, I beat it to death with a clothing rod that was on the floor. I also stopped zipping my bag at night. It was a rough first couple months, but I eventually got all the generations. I spray monthly now. I haven't seen one in my house in years. They're native here, so I'll find them in the yard and shed, but this is my house, dang it. I don't know either. It sucked, but it's good now. Oh my goodness, reading this story made me cringe and laugh at the same time. I can't even imagine the horror of having a swarm of flying cockroaches coming at me like that, and then to have a single one drop on my face while sleeping, no thank you. But I have to give you major props for your determination in getting rid of those pests. Living on just a concrete slab for years, that's some serious dedication to getting rid of those bugs. And beating one to death with a clothing rod? That's some creative thinking right there. I don't know what we would call you. I feel like there's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man. So maybe Roach Man? I don't know. But I'm glad to hear that you finally got all the generations of those creepy crawlies out of your home. Story 2. The ocean. I used to go to the beach a lot. I usually stayed in the warm shallows, but I was feeling adventurous. I went past the first sandbar right to the second one. I'm standing there looking down at what looks like a straight drop into the abyss. In the shallows, the water is clear and warm, but the deep waters get dark, almost black. I could feel a cold current coming from the deep. Ice cold water rushing around my ankles. I felt like any moment something would reach from the dark and grab my ankles and yank me underwater. It sparked some kind of primal fear, an absolute terror of the open ocean. Cold, no light, no air. That was my first experience with the open ocean. Well, it doesn't end there, because I apparently like to play with death. Me and my sis liked to go to the beach when it was really wavy, but still safe to swim in. We would swim out into the waters with a floaty and ride the waves back to shore. It was super fun. Well, I had an ingenious idea. How about we go past the second sandbar because the waves are bigger, and we will spend more time riding the floaty back to shore. We didn't even get 5 feet from the sandbar before a monster butt wave pummels me and my sis. I roll but quickly gain my orientation again. I break the surface laughing. All fun and games, right? No, my sis doesn't surface. The sheer terror I felt was like no other. I screamed her name over and over, but being this far from shore, no one can hear you. I dived underwater multiple times looking for her. I was so scared the salt water didn't even bother my eyes when I was looking underwater. She finally broke the surface all on her own. Coughing and crying, I let her ride on my shoulders back to shore to keep her face out of the waves. She was okay. We never did that again. I played with death and almost lost my sis because of it. The ocean is freaking terrifying. It will easily overpower even the best of swimmers. Well, it looks like we have a couple of stories about the ocean, and both of them are giving me some serious anxiety. I mean, I love the beach as much as the next person, but dang, these stories make me want to stay on the shore forever. I also have like a really bad fear of open water, and I remember one time I went snorkeling and almost peed myself right then and there because my foot slipped and all I could see below me was open water. Not the best time. But these stories are a good reminder that the ocean is not to be messed with. It's powerful, it's unpredictable, and it can be deadly. But hey, if you're feeling brave and are a much better swimmer than I am, go ahead and ride those waves. Just make sure you have a buddy with you, a life jacket, and maybe a flare gun, just in case. Story 3. Gangs. Not the people in them, what they are capable of. I'm now 28. When I was growing up in a broken down, crappy neighborhood, absolutely littered with gangs. A young girl around 16, she had bipolar disorder 1. She loved modifying parts in an old motorbike she found in the back alley. She would let these guys in a certain gang help her. These guys loved her. She'd play cards and taught them how to cook. She never really attended school. A quiet, chill kind of person. This girl eventually got a boyfriend. A popular, butthole kind of guy. He mistreated her so badly. She stopped doing things she loved for him. From what I remember, she was fairly pale and had longish black hair. She tanned herself for him and became extremely unhappy. Long story short, her boyfriend ended up R-wording her, filmed it and sent it to those guys in the gang. They ended up killing him. I was told they burnt him badly, then shot him in the head. All are in prison now. They tried to speak to her over the phone and even wrote letters to her. I found out she killed herself 2 weeks down the line. They cared about her so much. She didn't deserve anything she got. She was mentally unstable and just wanted a job as a mechanic. Gangs scare me shitless. God, what a soul-crushing story. I wish people would have never have to experience these things. But this story highlights the complex and disturbing realities of gang culture and its impact on vulnerable individuals. It's important to acknowledge and address these issues in order to prevent future tragedies like this from occurring. It's nice that they took care of her, but it's still really scary. I don't know if I think what that guy did deserved it, but I'm happy that it was taken care of. I wish peace for that girl, though. Story 4. I'm not entirely sure how to put it into words, but just how polarized politics has gotten, combined with the mess of misinformation going around, and all these different interest groups with mutually exclusive views, each equally deep in their commitments that they are the righteous ones, and everyone else is evil. I guess the elusive nature of truth combined with the hard reality that people will absolutely lie and exploit your better nature to further their aims is what scares me the most. I'm saying this as someone on the libertarian left, to speak of my own people. My worry is that my empathy and perhaps naive desire for utopia is just being manipulated so some revolutionary can come into power, and then it's just someone else wearing the same goddamn boot that's on all our necks. I recognize as well that this fear plays into the interest of those who want to crush leftist organizations. I guess to expand on it a bit, I am deathly scared of being propagandized, to the extent that I might become someone's dupe. All the while there are atrocities going on the world over, and my sitting back doing nothing only helps those responsible for them. TLDR, baby leftist doesn't have the balls, eat the rich. This is me. I also worry about how little empathy people seem to have for other human beings, whether it's immediately in front of them or in some faraway land. I honestly wish we could just, start to care about each other a bit more and get rid of this you against me motto. But hey, wishful thinking, I guess. Story 5. The potential existence of an afterlife. I get hit with some strong existential dread every now and then, and it's the worst thing mentally I've felt. Same. It's that deep unknown that hangs over my head. We were born into this world and we're lucky to live a decent life, but I only need to look around to see insane suffering. The thought that there could be other worlds in the afterlife, like this one, is deeply disturbing, and that you have no control over what might happen in the afterlife. I had no control over being born into this world either, so who's to say that it won't happen again? I just hate the fact that there is so much unknown stuff, like so many questions about the universe and existence that remain unanswered. It's just kind of disturbing. All I know is that I want to be with my loved ones in whatever way possible. You know the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once? I like that. Even just the idea of being like a rock or a bagel with my mom and dad, that's all I really want. Story 6. Our current environmental situation. While there is a trending movement, I would expect that there would be far more emphasis to fix what's going on with our environment. I'm on the west coast of Canada, and I remember the last couple years of forest fires. It's not hard for me to wonder what's to come. It feels like, to me, that we should be reacting with the same enforcement and vigor as the COVID-19 pandemic, but instead, we're seeing no real leadership. I hope to see more this year, but unfortunately, my hopes are not terribly high. It's hard to think of a future or starting a family when we see multiple signs that 2050 could be a make or break time. And even that feels like it's under contention continuously. Yeah, my dad, he works in sustainability, so I've been hearing the narrative of climate change since I was little, and it really is eye-opening to hear him talk about it. I don't know, guys. Maybe let's just make sure to recycle today. Story 7. Aneurysms. One moment you're doing whatever, and in the blink of an eye, you're dead. Usually no warning signs can happen to anyone, at any age, for any reason regardless of health or life choices. Have seen one person die suddenly from this, and have known many more. If I'm gonna die, I need to at least block time off my calendar a week in advance so I can plan around it. I completely understand the sentiment of wanting a bit of a heads up before time comes. It would be nice to have the opportunity to say goodbye to those we love. Tie up loose ends and make the most of our remaining time. I know CPR just in case that situation ever happens, so consider getting CPR certified somewhere around you. They're typically pretty cheap. Story 8. I have a couple. Number 1, something is happening to my wife and children. Number 2, doing everything right financially, saving for retirement, investing, paying down my mortgage, etc., and everything crashing. As a millennial, I have already been through 3 major recessions. I'd prefer to not add a depression onto that. I think about this a lot. I'm doing everything right now, but what if that doesn't even matter? I'm sacrificing now to be responsible when maybe it would be better to just enjoy life in the present. You know, take more, better vacations. I'm in my 20s, and let me just say, college is so expensive. So I'm already paying for that and trying to save up. I can't tell you how much I wish I could just go out and have fun. But hey, fingers crossed, the future is what counts. Story 9. Having a long-term illness that is a burden on my family and wipes us out financially. My grandmother has become that kind of burden, and she doesn't care and intentionally makes life impossible for my family. We will probably be sending her to live with my piece of shit aunt because of how they both are behaving. My family might lose our house because of everything we are going through. My grandmother needs to be out of the picture. She's not even a good person, and she brought her illness on herself, so I have no pity. She can F right off at this point. Story 10. As a 36-year-old man with no kids and having never been married, dying alone. Getting old never having known what it feels like to have someone who chose you scares the heck out of me. I feel this. I'm afraid that I'm too selfish and horrible, even though I have a boyfriend. I love him so much and I can't wait to spend time with him, but I'm still kind of nervous that maybe something will happen. I like being alone, but I never imagined I'd have to be alone my whole life. I don't know, fingers crossed for everybody out there that you find someone or that this person is your right person. If not, that's okay too. Just make sure you surround yourself with some great friends, or in my case, a great couple pets. Story 11. Being tortured, I think. I feel a healthy amount of fear towards death. Like, I'm not thinking or worrying about it every day, but I try not to get in risky situations either. But the thought of someone provoking me an immense amount of physical pain with the whole purpose of making me suffer just scares the crap out of me. That's actually my worst fear. Kidnapping and torture is like the cruelest way to die. I've seen all the Hostel movies, some Saw movies, and Martyrs, which is the French version, to know that it is the scariest and most painful way to die. Story 12. Phone calls late at night or at awkward times when people don't normally call. Those are never good calls. Story 13. That death really is the end, and the only thing waiting for any of us is total oblivion. I lost my fiance a few years ago, and I'm constantly thinking about death. I don't care about living forever in some paradise in the sky. I just want to be with the people I love. I'm terrified I'll never see him again. Story 14. Swimming in a body of water that I can't see the bottom of. I have occasionally had the experience of swimming at depth between 2 points without being able to see either, following my compass for direction and monitoring my computer for depth. It's almost like a sensory deprivation experience. Very weird, but kind of peaceful. I don't know though, I'm still really scared of open water. Story 15. That my neighbor literally believes that a secret cabal of pedophiles is injecting us with Chinese nanobots and vaccines. He also believes that Trump won the last election. He never served in the military, yet has adorned his truck with military stickers and ads for firearms. That's bad enough, but what really scares me is that there are many more like him in every town in the US. Story 16. My chronic illness symptoms are getting worse, and the thought that I might have to deal with this condition for the rest of my life. Dude, I'm the exact same way. I have chronic migraines, so if you don't know what that means, it means I get migraines a lot, and they're typically pretty bad. Sometimes I notice they start to get worse, and that scares me that they'll just keep getting worse. So for both of us, I wish both of us the best of luck. Story 17. I'm not afraid to die. I'm scared of getting old and losing control over my body and mind. That is far scarier to me than having it all end. Story 18. Flying. Have a horrible phobia of it. Haven't flown in 22 years now. I've missed out on life-changing opportunities because of it. Why couldn't I just be afraid of something normal like spiders or clowns? It's so frustrating to see everyone else going out all over the world having these adventures, and I'm stuck here on the ground missing out on everything because I can't bring myself to get on a plane. I have a friend like that, and I know this isn't the best idea, but she told me for short flights, she'll just take melatonin and completely fall asleep. Wake up and boom, you're there. Story 19. That everything can change in a second. Just over a year ago, my dad went for a walk, had a heart attack, and died straight away. He was in great shape. There was no warning, and he was only 50. Everything changed that day. My heart totally goes out for you, OP. I wish peace for you and your family. Story 20. Dementia. We've got a family track record, so... What was I saying? Fortunately, I live in a country that is passing a euthanasia law. Story 21. Whatever the frick is at the bottom of the sea. Those frickin' demons are bloody terrifying. And I have Finding Nemo to frickin' blame for my deep fear of the deep dark sea. There are giant things down there, watching you, studying you. And there's not a goddamn thing you can do. Story 22. I've never been as scared as I was when my mom had COVID, and she was in the hospital on 12 liters of oxygen, and I received a call from the hospital at 2 a.m. She was fine. They just called me to let me know that after not being able to sleep for a few days, she was finally sleeping. I can only imagine how scared and worried you must have been when your mom was hospitalized with COVID. It's a difficult and stressful time for anyone to go through, and the added uncertainty of the pandemic only makes it worse. It does stink that the hospital just called you like that, though, to tell you that your mom was sleeping. I'm sure that must have been so scary for you. Story 23. My own death. The Christian idea of heaven sounds like heck to me. No free will, no privacy, just singing God's praises for 24/7 for eternity. I don't like the atheist version of the afterlife that is not any better. I'd rather just be immortal. Story 24. The fact that in America, there's clearly a media bias towards corporation and social ideas. And the way they're pushing culture fast is by ruining the lives of anyone that disagrees with them, and no one does anything about it. Story 25. Space. It just scares me to the core to know that we are just casually floating in the darkness, filled with the gigantic fireballs, and who knows what else. Yeah, I agree with you. Aliens are cool until you think about it that they could just be watching us all the time. I don't know, is there a crop field nearby, anybody? Story 26. Bears. I've never encountered one and I never will, but they scare the crap out of me. I have watched too many videos and heard too many tapes of people getting mauled alive for an hour or longer. Story 27. Seeing planets from space or close-ups of said planets. I know it's strange AF, but I tell you that once I got scared on a dang physical map of Europe. I don't even know why, but I sure have a problem. Story 28. Spiders because they are so small and elusive. If you don't kill that bitch on the first, try to live in fear for your life until it shows itself again. But will you be alive to see it? Story 29. Death. I am terrified of dying. The unknown. Even if you are biologically dead and you feel nothingness, the nothingness itself is still a feeling, and that makes you feel alive. Story 30. Any sort of apocalypse where the world isn't completely destroyed. Like if a zombie apocalypse happened, I'd probably get shot in the leg when the horde comes. I agree with you so much, OP. That's like one of my biggest fears. My thought is hide for a year, but honestly, I feel like I would just freak out too much. Story 31. A lot of crap. The state of the world politically, environmentally, and socially. There are so many fires that it's terrifying to think about it all at once. Story 32. The ocean. Specifically being in it with no land in sight, or being caught in a storm. I'm freaking out a little just imagining it right now. Story 33. Zombies I hate. I know they aren't real, but I can't look at one without freaking out. The only exceptions are Minecraft zombies and P vs. Z. I totally agree. I used to love both those games growing up, and those are the only zombies where I'm like, not that scary. Creepers, on the other hand. Story 34. Losing my daughter. There is nothing scarier to me than the thought of her not being here anymore. It makes me sick just thinking of it. Story 35. The amount of evil and hatred in this world for no other reason besides simple differences in opinions, race, gender, and religion. Story 36. 1. Dying. 2. Being the last person in my bloodline. 3. Having everyone abandon me. 4. The thought of rejection. I am the same way. Rejection might be one of the scariest things in the world, and it happens all the time. Story 37. Being helpless, bedridden, and completely dependent on other people. It sounds absolutely soul-crushing and humiliating. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.